It's 9 o'clock. Good morning. You're different today. How does it feel to not be sitting in your table groups? We didn't give you a chance to say goodbye to your table groups. I'm wondering if they've all left anyway. We feel like a smaller group suddenly, but it is lovely to see you. I'm hoping you had a restful sleep, and I am now calling the meeting back to order to continue with the business of the Canadian Shield Regional Council. Now, you'll notice on your agenda that it says new business, right? And so, not sure until yesterday we had any, which we don't. We also had scheduled in an opportunity to, one last time, have a conversation with our moderator. And we called it a Q&A. A Q&A. Now, I wonder if she's here in the court. She was in the hallway. Well, she's making her way into the room. Talk to the person beside you. Is there anything that rose up in you last night? Hopefully it was a thought or a inspiration from our time together that you'd like to voice and maybe ask a question about. So talk to your neighbor and see if there's anything, since we have this wonderful opportunity to engage Carmen this last time this morning. So take a moment.
Sorry, Nancy.
No, it's okay. No, we're inviting people.
I misread the agenda and I thought I wasn't on until preaching. So how fabulous.
How fabulous. Surprise.
Good thing I almost went up to my room to take the phone call. So it's a good thing I was just going around out. No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We want to get everything we can. Yeah. So I was just inviting folk to turn to the neighbor and chat a bit, see if there was something that was rising up and then they wanted to ask you about, or just to comment on maybe our experience of church in this area, or so you want to do that? Oh, just a second. Oh, yes. Oh, sorry, Carmen.
What?
Before
How fabulous.
I've been so on point all weekend.
You have. I aspire to moderate general council the way that you have moderated this meeting.
Wow. Thank you, but no thanks.
No, I aspire for me to moderate.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh,
yeah.
well.
No, I don't
honored.
push my job on a lot of
No,
people.
I would. I don't know. Yeah. What we were going to do was we were going to check in with our Zoom participants who are on the screen. And we thought we'd leave them up for this time.
Okay.
So we're all together virtually. So if there's any question from the online folk, they'll put it in the chat box, and then Susan will capture it, and then I'll ask it. How's that? So we say good morning to the rest of the regional council who are joining from their living rooms, their bedrooms, their studies, maybe even their church offices. Welcome and good morning. There's a question already? And? Oh, could you tell us about the 100th anniversary?
Sure. So you may have seen there's been a save the date invite that's gone out on social media from the United Church. And we have our logo now for the 100th anniversary. I think Peter has it behind him on a Zoom screen, which you can see. It's sort of a play on our crest. We are launching a year-long commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the United Church of Canada. So this year, on June 9th, there will be a nationally live-streamed service to kick off our 100th year from Metropolitan United in Toronto. I think the reason I'm a little crispy after being up here so much this weekend. Yeah. I think the reason it's at Metropolitan United was because that was where the original church union service was supposed to happen. And then there were so many people, there was too many for Metropolitan, and then they changed it to another venue, and then there was too many for that. So then they changed it to another venue. And so, so we're kicking off the centennial year from the place where it all started. And as I showed yesterday, I won't actually be at the kickoff service because I'll be preaching in St. John's, Newfoundland that day, but have made a recorded greeting for the church, and I will join online. I just can't physically get from the service in St. John's to the service in Toronto in time. There are going to be a number of different events that'll start to get advertised through the church over the next year. We talked about it, I think, a little bit online yesterday, but there's some publications that have come out. Don Schweitzer and Hiran Kim Craig have written an amazing book that I had the honor to read a galley copy of and write the foreword for, on a history of preaching in the United Church of Canada over the last 100 years. That's really engaging and has sermons from across all the different decades of the history of our church. We are spending this year looking at our past 100 years. We talk about it as a commemoration rather than a celebration, realizing that we hold in tension this beautiful legacy of how we have developed into the church that we are now and the church that we aspire to be, and that there were parts of our history that have been painful and damaging to folks that have attended our congregations, who have been excluded because of their identity, unwed mothers, deaconesses in the church, the Indian residential institutions. There's many things that the United Church of Canada participated in over the last 100 years that were also damaging. And so we're using the word commemorate to hold in tension those two realities, with an eye to also like celebrating with joy that we are also in a posture of repentance and accountability, and not wanting to sweep that stuff under the rug as we celebrate who we are today. There will be a series of events that happen next June as well, including a big celebration that will happen in Toronto. But I think the plan at this point is to have the worship service on the actual anniversary would happen, or the Sunday before. I'm not sure the exact details yet because I'm not actually on the Centennial Committee. Will be from St. John's, Newfoundland. In part, their regional council name is First Dawn Eastern Edge, and so that is the first dawn of the day of our anniversary on the church. And so the general secretary and former moderator Richard Bott, who's the chair of the Centennial Committee, felt really strongly that we also shouldn't center Toronto always, because that's easiest. And so so we're going to start with the very eastern edge of the country, where the sun rises first on our anniversary, and that will be where the actual anniversary gets commemorated from. And I will be at that service. We also, in the Mods Book Squad, doing 4 Centennial Edition book discussions. The first one is Alf Dumont's The Other Side of the River. It's a memoir of growing up Anishinaabe and settler heritage and going into United Church ministry. We are reading Karen Hamilton's Faith as Protest, which is, she's a United Church minister, retired, former general secretary of the Canadian Council of Churches. What's the third one? Oh, David Giuliano's novel, The Undertakings of Billy Buffon, and then Janet Gear's Undivided Love are sort of the 4 books by United Church authors. And this month, we're squeaking in an extra United Church author, but it's not one of the highlighted Centennial editions because the Centennial year hasn't kicked off yet. And that's Brahma and the Beggar Boy, which is an epic poem. It's difficult to read, I'm not going to lie, by Renee Cyclicar, who is a United Church minister's daughter, who lives and works in BC. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other questions yet bubbling? Because there's another one from Peter. Could you give a plug? Because we're trying to entice people to become a commissioner to General Council 45 when it's held in Calgary. And we've got some who have stepped forward.
Yeah.
And have been nominated, but we still have a few spots left.
Yeah.
What did you say? Oh, moderator.
Peter, thank you for verbalizing what was in Diane's mind. I could feel the mind meld, like plug General Council 45. It's an exciting time because we will have commemorated our anniversary. And then the theme that I've chosen for General Council is visions and dreams, which comes from our biblical text, especially from Isaiah, about our elders will see visions and our young people will dream dreams, because I like to take the gendered language out of that. We're really planning General Council to be an exciting, forward-looking celebration of how we can flourish as a church. Future thinking and flourishing. Who knew that was going to be the things that we would want to highlight at General Council? It's the first time that we will have gathered in person for General Council since GC 43 in Oshawa. Right. We will start online because we're going to continue the discernment process of the discussion groups and learning sessions, and using the Way Forward Committee, which blessedly I will not be on this time. I was on the last two General Councils. It's not going to be the 6-month long General Council that never ends. So there'll be, I think, maybe 4 or 5 online sessions before our in-person gathering. And then we'll gather together August 7th to 12th, save the date, in Calgary. And we really hope that you can come and that you'll discern thoughtfully about if you feel called to do this work, or if there's somebody that you know that you would like to tap on the shoulder and say, here's why I value your leadership and why I would love you to go as a commissioner from our region.
Mm-hmm. Are any of our GC 44 commissioners in the court, if they could stand up? And there's some online, hands up online. So there's also people that you could talk to in our circle that have had experience, although it's been very different. Right.
GC 44 was very different. Yeah.
Very different. But still to get a flavor of what it was like to serve the church in this capacity, and how you personally were blessed by doing that ministry, and the challenges too, because we have to be honest. There is work with everything we take on. But what was it like to be a commissioner? So when you see them, or if you have any questions, please reach out to our current commissioners as well. That might be the way to do your own discernment. Yeah. I've been 3 times and each time was different, and each time was rich. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I would say about it is, it's we talked yesterday, and I shared it in the theological reflection last night around that accountability for, like, stepping out of our congregationalism a little bit and being accountable at the congregational or community of faith level for how we engage with a wider church. And this is one of the ways that you can step out and build bridges with the other courts of the church, and to ensure that your region is well represented and well connected, and to be part of living into the future of what it looks like to be a church with 3 courts instead of 4. And to proactively find ways to strengthen our communication and participate in the wider life of the church. When I did my internship in rural Saskatchewan, so I went through discernment through the old process before candidacy pathways. There was no appeals. It was very, the transfer and settlement was still there. And when I was discerning with my director of denominational formation at VST about where I should do my internship, I said, I've always moved I've moved a ton. I've had a lot of global experience. I've had, I moved to Texas by myself when I was 17 to study music. I think my biggest stretch goal is just staying where I'm at. So what if I just stayed in Vancouver and did my internship? And the response I got back from the church is, you're just scared to move to a rural context. And so off they sent me to a town of 80 people. It's like, so they're like, you can't just live in the city. You have to go and understand the rural context in a farming community that has a different economy. And like, we were like this, right? I'm a fisherman's daughter. The economics are the same. It's a very boomer bust economy. And I had a lay supervisor. I was in candidate supply, and my supervisor would say, like, I just don't know why you're here. Like, every time we get a candidate supply intern, there's like, they have to improve their preaching or their pastoral care, and you don't seem to have any of those goals. And or like, you don't seem to have challenges in any of those particular areas, and I don't know what we're supposed to teach you. And I was like, I wanted to stay in Vancouver. So maybe you're just supposed to teach me I'm not the boss of the world. And but at the end, she said, because that was the year that I was went to the World Council of Churches 9th General Assembly. They warned me that if I went, I would likely get elected to the Central Committee because of the diverse identities that I brought as a young, about to be ordained Indigenous woman. And that if I was elected to the Central Committee, that I would also likely be elected to the Executive Committee, which I was. So all of a sudden, like traveling from rural Saskatchewan to Brazil and then Geneva and New York and a bunch, and it was only like February till June. I think I went on 4 international trips. And what Helen said to me is, I think you were sent here to teach us, because I feel like rural churches can often rely on the urban churches to send their ministers to do the work of the church. And we've never had somebody who had to be away so much. And we have to keep reminding ourselves that this is also the work of the church, that you're not like off on vacation, that you're doing important work and leadership in the church. And so what I would encourage you guys to stretch and think about, even though the pressures might feel significant when there is a sense of isolation and being separate from the wider church, that your voices are important, and they bring, as Diane said in our small group yesterday, you bring your own diverse identity and experience of the United Church of Canada just by virtue of the shape and culture of this region. And so please come. It's going to be a fun time.
I can feel the spirit moving. Thank you. And we have a question from the online group, or the online extension of this room. And the question is, how do we get news from the General Counsel office via newsletter?
You guys are front loading our discussion from yesterday. So there, if you Google search United Church of Canada newsletters, it will take you to a page on our website where you can sign up for any number of different newsletters. There's ones that are focused on our Indigenous ministries and justice and reconciliation. There are ones that are focused on other program areas of the church, but there's an important one called Essentials, so E-Essentials. And if you sign up for no other newsletter, please sign up for that one. You may or may not know about an act of legislation called the Canada Anti-Spam Legislation. So even if you are a faithful, generous supporter of mission and service or the foundation, and you know that we have your email address or your contact information, like that relationship with you as a donor is separate. We're not allowed to send, under that legislation, we're not allowed to send unsolicited communications, even if we know who you are and how to reach you. You have to consent by selecting to opt into that newsletter. And it's really important. That's where the information about remits comes out. That's where information about our actions on Gaza or other humanitarian crises that come up comes out. And so it really, I think, more and more is becoming the lifeline to what's happening in the broader church. So please go to our newsletters website and then click on Essentials at the very least.
Thanks.
Mission and service is one of the important ones. Yes. Click on Essentials and Mission and Service. Thank you, Melody.
Oh, now you're backlit. Oh, that's Todd. The halo Todd McDonald.
He's getting there.
Yeah, we're on
Todd
microphone.
McDonald, and I'm a pastoral relations minister, and I'm always interested, and especially from you as our moderator, what recharges your battery? I know you're so busy, but what do you do to recharge your battery spiritually? And we can learn from that.
Yeah, that's a good
Thank you,
question.
Todd. Yeah.
Well, firstly, I'm blessed to be a Virgo, so a change is as good as a rest. And so far, fingers crossed, knock on wood, all the things, I seem to have not had like a moment where I sort of crashed and burned. The lovely Sue Fortner, who was part of the support team in the Office of the Moderator and General Secretary and supported many moderators, retired just before I was installed. And she warned the chair of my advisory committee that around the 6-month mark, a lot of moderators go like, oh no, and they sort of need a moment. And the last month or so, I keep saying to Graham, I'm just tired. And he's like, well, good. Like maybe you're finally experiencing that 6-month crash, like 20 months in. I mean, I am a very experienced and resilient traveler. I may be a little bit OCD with my travel, so I manage all my own travel, so I don't get stressed about that stuff because I have it all in my head and my apps and everything. So I don't find that part of it stressful. But I do have a really great advisory committee. So it's Graham Brownmiller, who's the lead minister at Jubilee United Church in Burnaby, BC, who's one of my very best friends, and knows the life and work and the polity of the church. He was chair of worship at GC 44, but has served as a commissioner to general council, has served on executive of our region, and knows the demands of the work and is well connected and can find support for me or answers for me if I need. The very Reverend Stan Mackay is on my advisory committee and has provided a huge amount of like prayerful grounding. Marie-Claude Manga from Montreal is always challenging me to remember how to stay Christ-centered. And she'll say, moderator, I really appreciate the phone call check-in. And also you haven't talked about Jesus once. M. Chorney is the GCE rep. And so, she holds like the whole work of the government, the link to the governance work. And then Ingrid Hartloff Brown and Danielle Iana James are two colleagues that I really love and trust. Ingrid's been one of my best friends for over 20 years. I outed her for her call to ministry when I didn't know it was a secret. And she knows my tells, so she knows like if I'm not okay. So that group really supports me. And then I read a ton. Sometimes I binge watch TV. I'm currently on season 6 of Castle. I try to spend quality time with my kids. Like I know that one of our human tendencies when we feel stressed and burdened is to like turtle in and like isolate. And I know that if you're introverted or more introverted than me, because I'm actually right on the cusp, that recharging your social battery is important, but isolation can actually increase burnout. And there's Pete Baccio, who's the ED or CEO of I think it's called Genwell or something. It's a nonprofit that's working to reduce social isolation, said that actually like our social ties are very important, and making time regularly to see your friends and family is a really, really important part of how we prevent burnout from happening. And so I make time to go to movies. And like, if you follow me on social media, every once in a while I'll post like hashtag movies with a moderator, which is just the thing I started with Morgan Bell. Like the first time I went to a movie with someone when I became moderator, I try to get to plays or go on like a day-long silent retreat with a friend to Scandinavia and just like soak my bones in the hot springs. Get home to see my parents. I talk to my mother every day. But I didn't.
They said good for you.
Yeah.
I think it was a mother speaking.
Yeah, there was a mother saying a stamp of approval from all the mothers. In the
Yes.
room. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Todd. It's a good question. Oh, okay, Torin. If you could go to the mic, that's helpful. Just so our online people can hear the question. Yeah.
So, introductions. I'm Torrin Mogg from Zion United Church in Thessalon and Christianity at the Margins in Sudbury. Is there any, as the United Church is moving towards new, different types of ministries to address the current moment, is there any movement towards restoring any campus presences or chaplaincy and like reinvesting in that space?
Thank you for asking that question. I actually have drafted my very late report to General Counsel Executive, and that was one of the issues that I've raised that we're not talking about. I just met with the Association of United Church Ministers in Nova Scotia through an online meeting last week, and they're at risk of losing their nascent and very successful restart of chaplaincy at Dalhousie for want of funding for staff. So like they've been able to access grants and funding that covers the supplies and the food, because it's very much based around food ministry, but not for staffing. And it looks like that chaplaincy may close. I know U Hill congregation at UBC is where I started my ministry in chaplaincy, and because of their changes in funding, both from mission and service and within their own congregation, because it was sort of a joint regional congregational ministry, because U Hill worships on UBC campus, they just had to cut the chaplain, and now the lead minister is sort of doing double duty, congregational ministry and chaplaincy. So he maintained the relationship with the students, but they lost staffing for that. We just lost funding for the student animators within the network of chaplaincies across Pacific Mountain region, because I think we relied on Canada Summer Job Grants for those and didn't get the funding for that this year. And I think that as much as we are working at growth and renewal, investing in first third ministries, which is what we call it in Pacific Mountain region, but it's basically ministry like 0 to 30, right? Children's ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry, in whatever shape and form, providing a safe space for young people in the church is going to be like, that's the most important legacy that we have. And I don't see us talking about it. In fact, sometimes on social media, I'll say, there's a closed ministry personnel group that's a little bit infamous for not always being the safest or most healthy place for discourse. There's a lot of ranting that happens in there. But there's also sharing of resources and people asking genuine questions and like drawing on the wisdom of their colleagues. And you just sit and eat popcorn and watch the conversations happen. Yeah. I saw somebody ask if there was an alternative resource for youth ministry than the Go Project resources, because they weren't willing to spend $400 on such an expensive resource. And I was like, if you're not willing to spend $400 once for your young people in your church, like that is not your biggest problem, is the price of your resources. And I think that we forget the miracle of the fishes and loaves. When the church has set its mind to it, it has never, ever failed to create wealth and abundance for the ministries that we care about. But it's like, we're looking to the horizon of like, what's the future of the church? And forgetting that the future of the church is those young people that we're not investing in now. So going back to GC45, the network of ministry personnel and other staff who support our first third ministry across the country have a goal to have 100 young people at General Council 45 between Youth Forum and commissioners. And so if you know of any folks who are interested in the life and work of the church that would benefit from the experience of participating in governance, elect young commissioners to go to general council, because that investment is forming them for leadership in the church. That's where my background started, is being involved in the courts of the church. And it's not for everybody, like not everybody wants to do it, but for those that do, like, support them, stand next to them, especially when you can have 16 commissioners and sometimes it looks like you're having a hard time filling vacancies on committees. Like, tap your young people that you see potential in and bring them along. If you have questions about how to do that, especially when, you know, sometimes young people's lives can be like quite all over the place in terms of school commitments, work commitments, things like that. Diane's a great resource for how to do outreach to top people on their shoulders and say, hey, we'd love to hear your voice in a more formal way. But in terms of chaplaincy, I think it's vital. You know, we did as part of the background for the strategic planning process, the communications team did a communications audit of our external communications. What they found was like 95 or some really high number like that percentage of our communications were about the church to the church, like it was all internally focused. But they also did a survey with Environics of different demographics in the country who are not part of the United Church of Canada. And what they found was 40% of people under the age of 50 would be interested in attending or exploring a church like the United Church of Canada if they thought one existed. And so chaplaincy is a huge opportunity to let young Canadians know that we exist. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, somebody said yesterday, we didn't have to do public proclamation or identify ourselves as United Church because we were just so much a part of the fabric of Canadian society that we didn't practice sharing who we are. But now it's time to practice. And chaplaincy, I'm a huge believer in chaplaincy is a really important part of that, because those are like those university students that get supported through Ministries of the United Church of Canada. Where do you think they're going to come and baptize their kids and find a place to root their children in the life and work of the church and Christian community? So thanks. That's a great question.
They are great things. Thank you so much, Carmen. Thank you so much. Last opportunity. Last question.
I will answer no more questions after this
particular
agenda item.
Tone of silence. No, that's wonderful.
Service is going to end, and I'm going to turn my name tag around and say off duty. No.
Thank you for taking this extra time today. So we're going to let Carmen go back and get comfortable, and then we're going to invite. Yes. We started kind of 10 minutes early, but I don't think that's bad because we have to do some little bit of rearranging as people arrive perhaps early for the service. So I'm going to invite Kathy Smith, our chair of the planning team, to come forward.
Be so tall.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
It is so good to be with you here this morning. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we start our courtesies for the meeting. Evaluation forms. They will be available soon, and they will be emailed to every registrant of the meeting. So please, once you get those, please fill them out and submit them, because they will help the next planning team to make sure that they do what needs to be done. We want to know what worked, what didn't work, and what we might do and how we might gather as a community in the future. So they're an important part of the whole meeting. So please fill those out, and there will be instructions on how to submit that as well. Now, if you have mileage forms that you have not submitted as yet, there's still an opportunity to do that. There will be a basket over there. Or you can give them to Kathleen at the front in the hallway where the registration desk was. As well, before you leave, make sure you turn in your name tags. Just the lanyard. You get to keep this beautiful little paper. You can take that with you. It's a memento. There you go. But there's there will be basket over there by the door. Trust me.
But you want to remember this one, don't you?
I do want to remember this
You do.
one. I do.
I'm putting this in my scrapbook.
Oh yeah, there you go. Here. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. I don't have that many scrapbooks, so I don't think it's going to make a scrapbook.
That scrapbook.
So now I'm going to, before I start offering some courtesies, I'm inviting Nancy to offer a courtesy.
Sure. Thank you. Oh, I don't have pockets or a belt, so this is tricky. I know.
Do you want me to walk with you and hold it?
Yeah, well, eventually, what I'll do is I'll
Right here.
and then we'll walk down together. Okay. We'll walk down together. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the richness that our special guests brought to us this weekend, to Callan Lau, our growth animator, to Andrew Richardson, who's with the Office of Vocation from the eastern area of our country, and to our moderator, the Right Reverend Carmen Lansdowne. Wow. One of the first things I did when I was elected chair, I don't know why, I checked I was just looking at the statistics for all the regions that make up our rich church across this land. And I was shocked, and I don't know why, to discover that we are the smallest region. Did you know that? Statistically, we have a large landmass, but the number of pastoral charges in faith communities is 3.4%. The next one is the French collective. So that was interesting to me, because we have such a pride of place here. And we forget, when we begin to think small, we forget that. And as soon as I read that statistic, it came to mind that movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Love Actually. Do you know the scene I'm talking about? It's where Hugh Grant, who plays the British PM, kind of modeled after Tony Blair, and Billy Bob Thornton plays the US president, kind of modeled after another. And they're really, and they're in a diplomatic meeting. And, there's a lot of boasting and a lot of demanding and assumptions being made until the press conference. And that's when Tony, or the British PM, finds his voice, and he says, "We may be small, but we are mighty." And then he rhymes off all the people that have not only made an impact in that area, but also around the world. I mean, like Shakespeare, for instance. Just one of them, and then David Beckham's left foot and also his right foot, that sort of spanned every genre. And I think of our own region, and I think we have Jim Sinclair, former General Secretary in North Bay. We've spawned 2 moderators in a very short time at a marathon in Ontario, David Giuliano and Richard Bott. And moderator Carmen invoked the name Rob Oliphant. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but he was a candidate and ordained through Central United Church here in Sault Ste. Marie. Did you know that? I know we could rhyme off more, and they aren't necessarily in positions of great responsibility, but they're people within our congregations that dutifully and faithfully live out a ministry that has such a deep impact on us. So that pride of place was part of that upon this rock theme that was sort of ingrained in that thinking. And so I'm hopeful, Moderator Carmen, that in being among us, she kind of got a whiff of that. And that you'll go back with new stories to tell. And because we certainly have gotten new stories to tell having you with us this weekend. So we thank you, and we want to gift you with yes, we want to gift you. I'm looking up here. We want to gift you with this a sketch painting that was made by one within our region. And I'm going to go, Kathy's going to go there. We're going to get it. I do. Oh, it's right here. I can do this. Says on the back, it's Michelle, Mike Raby, was the artist and made and gifted this to us to use for this meeting. And we want to gift you with the original. And hang it in pride for us. And thank you so much for your time with us. Cool. Other than thank you to you.
Oh, you changed you moved my tablet. I've got to figure out where I am again now. Oh, here we go. Okay, so friends, on Friday afternoon, we gathered in our table groups and we entered into a covenant with each other. Now, as our weekend draws to a close, we name those who helped us to explore what it means to be upon this rock, to hear God's voice calling us to be the rock and to honor each other as we respond to God's blessed invitation. To Quattro and to Willow Grove United Church for graciously hosting us. Thank you. For all those young and old who set up, took down, and have yet to take down, who served and cleaned. Thank you. Absolutely. To the local arrangements team who decorated. They acted as guides. They supported the planning team and showed us their gracious Sault Ste. Marie hospitality. Thank you. And to the worship and music team who brought our theme alive with their musical gifts, inspiring us to join our voices together in celebration and prayer, and inviting us to reflect on how we work, live, and be community upon this rock and this wider land that we know as Turtle Island. Thank you. And to the tech team and 705 Live Sound who made this place look professional. Wasn't it just awesome? It was so smooth. We are so grateful that you gathered all these folks here in this place and on Zoom. Whether they were here in the plenary or they were on Zoom, it was a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. You helped us be community upon this rock that we call the Canadian Shield, and you made this hybrid meeting possible. And of course, to our parliamentarian, Bill Stedman, who kept everything legal. Woohoo! Thank you. To all those who provided displays to educate and inform and provide resources for take home, and for the engaging presentations of our resource teams and our commissions. That was wonderful sharing. We give you thanks. And to all those who provided leadership in worship and music, and to our chaplains, Lillian Roberts and Desire Therapy, Terwepi, for being available for our spiritual needs. Thank you. Thank you. And of course, to our guest speakers, Nancy already mentioned them by name, who inspired and challenged us to find joy, to find rich joy in new opportunities for collaboration, growth, and renewal, and inspired us to flourish where we are. Thank you. To the staff of the Canadian Shield Regional Council and the Shining Waters Regional Council, you are awesome. You rocked this rock this weekend. Thank you. And to the planning team, with special thanks to Peter Hartmans for joining us through the world of technology. It works wonderfully when it works, doesn't it? We thank him for his guidance and his wise counsel. And to our chair, Nancy Ferguson. What can we say? Thank you for your leadership. We have been blessed with our leadership. Thank you. So now, folks, as we prepare to take our leave, we acknowledge the road we have traveled and the roads and paths we have yet to travel. So until we gather again in community, be it hybrid or in person only, travel in mercies. Thank you. Oh.
Okay.
I'm trying. You don't have a Kleenex, we do.
Oh, don't cry. You're going to make me cry. Oh. Friends, it is my great pleasure and privilege to be able to extend gratitude to Kathy Smith. Before I came to Canadian Shield Regional Council, I knew of Kathy Smith because you all said to me, Kathy is amazing. Kathy is a hard worker. Kathy gets stuff done.
Yes.
And those things are so very true. When I count my blessings, Kathy, I count you twice. Kathy had the tremendous responsibility of wrangling the regional council meeting planning team at 8 o'clock in the morning every 2 weeks. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but when you gather a group of creatives who have had too much coffee and too little sleep, chaos ensues. And so Kathy would lovingly prepare this agenda that was so thoughtful. And we'd go off on these tangents. And Kathy would so gently say, friends, yes, it would be so cool to have Cirque du Soleil at our regional meeting. But for right now, I'd like to bring us back to this agenda item. With grace, with a smile, with deep faith in your heart, you guided this team so well. This has been an absolutely tremendous meeting because of all your care and your attention to detail. And on behalf of all of us, Kathy, I give you our deepest thanks.
Well, thank you. As always, it is a pleasure to serve the wider church. Thank you.
Don't go. Peter Hartmans wants to say some words from a distance among us. We just want to get him up there. There he is.
Morning, everybody.
Oh, good morning, Peter.
Okay, you can hear me. Thank you again, Chair Nancy, for your leadership this weekend. As I shared at the beginning, it was a regret I wasn't there in person, but it has actually been an enriching experience to join with the folks online and our online community, and a pleasure to meet in groups with them. And I'm also grateful for the folks that came from the General Council offices, especially the Right Reverend moderator. And the one thing I wanted to share with you as we look forward, our moderator will be with us in June 2025, June 13th to 15th for the Festival of Faith, which is co-hosted by the Canadian Shield Regional Council and Shining Waters Regional Council. And when and after the celebration of ministry service, if you want to bend Rob Smith's ear about the details, or at another time, which probably will be better, it will be an exciting event. So we can gather again in a little over a year together in Sudbury for the Festival of Faith. And I'm so glad that folks who were able to travel were able to gather together in the Sioux, and we look forward to coming back another time. And so grateful for the local hospitality, for the work of our staff, and of course the many volunteers who made this happen. So congratulations on an outstanding meeting, and we look forward to seeing you all online in the fall for the regional meeting, which will focus on the election of commissioners, and then again in the late spring of 2025 for the Festival of Faith. And as a added extra, the Festival of Faith is open to anybody. So not just delegates. So bring your friends, bring your neighbors, fill the joint, register, look around for the registration and in our local Canadian Shield newsletter. So congratulations on a wonderful meeting, and look forward to seeing you all in person in the near future.
Thank you, Peter. And we're signing off with our Zoom participants, I believe now, as we switch platforms to YouTube for the service. It is to start at 10:30. This is great that we have a little bit extra stretch time. So if you want to take a bathroom break, you want to wander, go for a walk, but be back here. There is some reserved seating, so be mindful of not sitting there unless you are part of the reason it's reserved. But beyond that, we will close the meeting at the end of worship, because worship is part of our meeting. So thank you, everyone. It's been a blessing to be among you, and I look forward to joining in our closing worship.